up, guys?
Hi.
My name's Jordan, as you all know. This is our toy store activity. For this activity, I went to Walmart off of Wendover, I think it is, and because it's the only one that was 24 hours that I know of that actually had a lot of toys. I actually got a friend that works there. So anyways, we were to go look at like the gender, look at it through a sociological lens, viewing toys as being like how they're dispersed, like through gender, if at all. So through Walmart, I went about 2 weeks ago. Actually, I kind of tried to get a head start on this, and I walked in. It was like 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, and I walked in, and I was. I like, as soon as you walk in, because like Walmart's got a market and it's got like a pharmacy entrance. So I was like, all right, I'm just gonna walk through the pharmacy. And oddly enough, I walked in the pharmacy, and then like I took a hard left because I was like trying to look, where everything was at. And the toys were kind of like sectioned, over in the back, like the back corner. And to me, the more I thought about it, Walmart really is more of an electronic, like cheap, clothing wear, and a lot like here recently. In the past couple of years, like groceries, like that's something they really like started to pick up on. So I figured, I was like, Walmart, there's still toys there. A lot of people shop there for like Christmas gifts and stuff. So I just felt like, I didn't see it as being awkward having like that little toy section to the left, because that's not really what their main profit is, I guess you would say. So I walked over there and I started looking, obviously, and I took some pictures. If you guys want to look at them, I took one. They actually have the aisles like out, singled out by gender. There was a boys aisle and there was a girls aisle. And obviously, it had pictures of the boys. You guys can look at that one if you want to. And then there was one of the girls. I didn't mean to stay, please, but oh well. So I was looking, and obviously through the boys aisle, I went down first, because I'm a guy. So a little biased there. But anyways, I was looking, and everything I saw, like even growing up, obviously, Professor Honeycutt was telling us, you obviously stroll the aisles of toy stores, growing up, but have you ever looked at it, through like a gender perspective? And obviously, I haven't, so, I took that approach this time, and I was looking, and obviously it's a lot of like superhero stuff, the common like masculinity type like image that, that I guess society is trying to portray on these, young boys and everything. And as far as girls, it was the princesses, all these like Disney movies like Frozen. They had like Princess Anna and Elsa, I think that's her name. So like a lot of those were big. It wasn't shocking to me, just because like that's kind of like the norm of what's accepted. And then I walked to the back and I saw these pictures on the top, on the back shelf. It wasn't like the boys aisle was here, the girls aisle was here. It was like two on each side, and then there was like one single one in the middle, which I kind of like noted as the gender neutral aisle, just because like there was like toys of both genders kind of mixed in. I don't know if that was like an additional aisle for them, like just to put more stuff in, or whatever it was. But in the back aisles, I saw these pictures up on the walls of these kids, and you notice they're not like, it's not boy and girl. It's just girls, or yeah, those two are girls, and then this one was the boy. The boy had, it looks like a bow and arrow in his hand. Those two, what is it they had? They had like
windmills,
yeah, windmills, and then they had bouncy balls. To me, I love bouncy balls. And I don't, I did. I ain't gonna lie, I still like them now. I would mess with them. But obviously, bow and arrow, you're not going to see a girl like at that age playing with bow and arrow. But Katniss Evergreen from the Hunger Games, she's a pretty masculine figure, in that science fiction, movie. But I just felt like they're putting these images on these kids at such a small age, because this is what the norm of America, or the norm of our society, wants our kids to be, because as I was talking to Kelsey before you guys came in, I actually spoke with a manager. When I walked in, I was like, because I was taking pictures, and they're like, can I help you? Probably getting a little weird. And I was like, no, I was just doing this for some research. They're like, okay. I was like, do you guys actually have a manager? And I was like, no, I'm sorry. They were like, yeah. And so I spoke with her, and I was like, so do you guys like have to organize these? Obviously you have your labels. And she's like, yeah, it's all corporate. She's like, we're, required to organize the toys in the way that they are. I'm like, oh. And, the more I started thinking about that, I started thinking about like Walmart in general, like who do they target? And I mean, you think about it, Walmart, always low prices guaranteed. So Walmart is targeting these lower to middle class, income kind of people because that's who they attract. And me personally, I love it because, I can afford it. We're in college, so Walmart, Target, anything like that, it's the place to go. So I started thinking about that even more, and I came to the conclusion that I thought about, like, what if Walmart posted like a toy section that said gender neutral toys, or like if they had like homophobic toys, like if they put two Barbie dolls together that were males, like in the same, holding hands in the same package. I'm like, how would that affect, the viewers of America or that lower to middle income class? Because you think those lower to middle income classes, most of those are set in their American ways, and most of them have been brought up in like I guess I wouldn't say just, this is an overgeneralized statement, but like in the southern states and like, so yeah, and that's like, they're very set in their ways, and like they're, just man and woman, boy and girl, you should play with this, you should play with that. Yeah, tradition. And I just feel like that's what, Walmart is trying to say, like, we're still with that, even with the changing, society and stuff like that. But I mean, to me, like when she said that, I was just like, it wasn't a shock, but also it wasn't, it was a little bit of a surprise just because, like, coming from like a corporate decision, to do that, they're thinking long term, and they're trying to think about, what does society want? Because that's obviously a marketer's job, is, we got to sell to the people because that's what they're wanting to do. So anyways, after I did that, I went to the bike rack, because I've always looked at the bike rack, it's just like, oh, there's a pink bike and there's like a blue bike. I mean, I'm colorblind, so I can't really see that much, but I can see some colors. So I noticed, like, all of these, like, obviously it's black and white, but like most of them, it was like boys and girls colors, I guess you could say. But I don't get it, because like you have a lot of boys and girls that girls like a lot more, I guess you'd say, guy colors like red or blue or green or something like that, aside from like pink or like light blue, stuff like that. Like, I like Carolina blue, that's just me. But I mean, I'm not a woman. And then also on that back shelf I want to tell you about was this right here. Here's my staple. It was a toy set, and it was like a little basketball, little jump thing or whatever. But this was the only one that had like boys and girls on it. And then I looked at the age, and it said 3 to 6 years, and I started thinking, I was like, 3 to 6 years, parents are usually just like having play dates with kids and stuff like that. And I'm sitting here thinking, like, I guess it's normal for kids, for boys and girls to play with the same thing when they're on a play date. Because like, some boys will like toys that girls don't like, vice versa. So I was just, I was sitting there thinking, well, these people are selling this, with the boys and girls on it, to not attract just boys or just girls, they're attracting all kids of that age. And I feel like, after like 3 to 6 years old, kids don't really care about what they're playing with. But you bump on up into like 8 to 12-year-olds, like getting into those teen years, that's kind of when the toys kind of get out of the way. I think that's when it starts to become more divided. I think that's when the parents start paying attention to the boys aisle and the girls aisle. I think that's where like it kind of starts like veering off. And then as far as like the stereotypes, that was another question we had to answer. Looking at the toys and stuff like that, like I was talking about, like going down the guys aisle, looking at like the superheroes and stuff, I think that was kind of stereotypical, because obviously you don't see a fat doll. You don't see like a doll that's like average. You don't see a doll that's has like deformities or nothing like that. You always see, these sculpted, or like very skinny, very thin, dolls and stuff like that, because nobody wants to play with a fat doll. You know what I'm saying? And it's not appealing. It's not appealing to the buyer. So the marketer is trying to, obviously put this stereotypical view of how society sees men and women and how they should be, and they're trying to sell that to these kids, to the parents to give to their kids. And it really depends on who the parent is, because like, if you take like a dad, like it's a very, masculine dad, like loves sports and wants his kid to grow up and play football, baseball, basketball, whatever it may be, but the kid doesn't want to do that, so that dad could probably stroll him down that, superhero aisle and be like, look, son, like, this is what I used to play with when I was a kid, and look, I had a great life. I mean, not all parents are like that, obviously, but like, there's some that do that, and I think it's just stereotypical that parents want their children to just see these aisles, just play with these toys only based on their gender. And you take a girl and her mom, I play with Barbie sets, those boys' toys, all those Lincoln Logs, that's for boys. You don't want to play with that. That's not fun. So I think that's just like, which I disagree, because my sister, it's me and my brother and my sister, and she always played with us because she didn't have anybody else, because I had 2 other guy cousins, so she's the only girl. So I mean, it was just right for her to fit in with whatever we did. We played kickball, baseball, all of us played together. But it's just, I don't know, it was very weird for me to like, I guess kind of look at it that way, because it's just like, this is what corporate America is selling to our kids. Well, selling to our parents to sell to our kids, because you're forcing them to go a certain way. I mean, some parents, those gender neutral parents or whatever, like they may see otherwise, and they may take their girl up the boys aisle, boys on the girl aisle, whatever it may be. But it's just, I feel like, yeah, I just feel like it's very strange. But as far as like the predominant race, obviously white, the white doll obviously overrules the black or African American doll, 10-1. I mean, they started incorporating like black Barbies and stuff like that, and black G.I. Joes. And with these like superheroes, obviously you can't see what color they are because they're always masked or whatever. So I always feel like that's always been an issue. Well, I mean, not really an issue, but it's always been something that people don't pay a lot of attention to. But when it gets brought up, that is something people start paying attention to. I mean, people say, it's a doll, whatever. But like, and some people have the issue with a white, white female playing with a black doll, and an African American female playing with a white doll. They're like, well, this isn't right. But then you look at it, like, it teaches equality. It should, it should incorporate, like, just because you're African American or just because you're Caucasian doesn't mean you can't interact, with the opposite race. Because I mean, cut your wrist, that doesn't sound right. But cut yourself, I mean, we all bleed red, So it's just like, if people could get that in their head, they're not gonna sit here and be like, well, sweetie, they're not the same color as we are. That doll's not the same color. I don't want you to get, I don't want you to grow up thinking that you're gonna get the same treatment, as this individual. And then to an extent, that may be true, because obviously some are more oppressed than others as far as races and stuff like that. So I mean, I agree to that. But going back to that gender neutral aisle, I said this was it right here. I think, yeah, like these two, like these last 3 right here. It was like Legos, and then like stuffed animals and all kinds of other stuff you guys will look at. To me personally, I forgot to ask the manager about that, like, because there was, like, when I say there were 2 distinct aisles, like it was just boys and it was girls, and that was it. And then they had like one aisle down the middle, like on each side there was stuff, and just looked like, it didn't even look like it was organized. So
was
it
that
got
labeled?
What?
Was that?
No, it wasn't. It was right in the middle of the boys and the girls. So that's why I felt like, to me, it looked gender neutral, because there were so many boys. Well, you could label them as boys' toys if you want to say that, or, excuse me, girls' toys as well. So I feel like, to an extent, if you wanted to call it gender neutral, you could, but because I really wanted to ask her about it, but it totally slipped my mind. So the way I looked at it and how disorganized it was, I was like, this is like, I really think this is just extra.
Yeah, it wasn't intended to.
Yeah, it wasn't intended to be there. So we're just like, hey, we'll just stick it right there in the middle, because we can't really put it on this side. There's too much on this side, too much on that side. So I mean, I just feel like, in general, like this activity, I mean, it was helpful, and it was interesting to like look, at how corporate America is shaping, like wanting to shape our society, like our younger society. As far as like age groups and stuff, obviously, like you take a 3-year-old, they're not going to look at society through a sociological lens. 3 years old, for God's sakes, like I didn't know what that was until 2.5 years ago. So I mean, it's just like, unless they're like just book crazy. But I mean, having a kid that young grow up being forced into a gender through toys. I mean, toys it's a small aspect of life, but it can have a tremendous effect on how they grow up and how they socialize with whoever what they identify as, and in turn, if they have kids in the future, could affect how how they are raise their kids. So I mean, in a nutshell, that's about all I found.
Hey, hi guys, I'm
And for my Toy Store project, me and my friend went to the Target on Lawndale Drive in Greensboro. And I was really excited to do this project because I don't actually get the opportunity to shop for toys that much because I don't have any children in my family. So I was really interested in seeing like what's changed since when I was a kid and like kind of the new toys and everything. I was really excited about that. And when we got there, I saw that there were about 11 aisles that I would count as toys instead of like maybe like sports equipment or anything. And so those aisles range from like toddlers through about older elementary, so maybe like 10 years old or so. And so what I was looking for was just to see how kind of gender stereotypes were manifested or perpetuated through the kind of toys that kids play with now, or expected to play with if they were. So for the exercise, what we did were we just went there and made observations. It was late at night, so there weren't that many like actual kids around the aisle, so that was better for us, I think. And there weren't that many shoppers. And I took notes on what I saw, and I got a lot of strange looks from the people who were shopping, like, what is she doing? She's not shopping. But nobody came and like asked me, so that was good. So what I saw were that, unlike you said at Walmart, they weren't actually labeled as like a boy or girl aisle. They weren't really labeled, they were labeled by the toys, like the different kind of toys. But those toy names could actually be labeled, like for example, there was one that was called like building sets, but then right under it, it was labeled just girls building sets instead of just leaving it as building sets. But I'll get back to that later. And they were also seem to be divided by like age group, so the toddlers, and then like the younger elementary, older elementary, through there. So that's, and then within those age groups, they were divided by gender, I think. And so for the aisle that I'm pretty sure was supposed to be considered the girls aisle, but it wasn't labeled. It was a lot of pinks and purples, and the main message, like, not even subliminal, it was actually written out, was be a princess.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there were, like, toys they had were like, baby dolls, Barbie dolls, just lots of dolls, and costumes, but the costumes were all princess costumes, no, like, career costumes or anything like that, just dresses. Yeah, lots of Disney. And one thing I thought was really funny was that there were like the Nerf guns for girls, which I hadn't seen, that was a new thing. There was a Nerf gun, but it was called Nerf like Rebelle or something, so it was in French to make it look more feminine, I think. And it was like, they were pink and purple and like a light blue kind of little guns, and they did have the arrows, like the bow and arrows.
Was that for girls?
Mm-hmm. They were like in the girls section and had like girls on it, and they were like decorated all girly, yeah.
So weird.
And for the advertisement, the movies that were advertised, because all the sections, I think, advertised some kind of like movie to sell and everything. The movies for the girls aisle were all just Disney princesses, so, and just different, I guess, franchises. They were like, yeah, the Frozen, and then there were the other ones that I don't know the names of, but they were Disney princesses. And for the boys' aisles, they were not decorated, but more coated, I guess, with like darker colors, so like blacks, blues, reds, just like darker, more I guess maybe aggressive colors, I'm not sure. And something that was like really strange to me, that there were so many toy vehicles, and that was like pretty much dominated all the sections, where there were like the little Hot Wheels cars, they were the little remote control cars, the building sets for cars, and the little like work vehicles, like the dump trucks and police cars and all these other different just little cars you can play with. And then the tracks and train sets and stuff like that. Just all kinds of different vehicles. And then the only costumes I saw in the boys' aisle were like a little tool set, tool belt, and little miniature tools go in it. And they even had like electric, like power tools. Like miniature power tools for like little kids, like a jackhammer. It's great though. It was really fun. It was really interesting.
That's so
Yeah.
That's very
And then so instead of any of the dolls, like all the girls had like tons of dolls, there were like a few like action figures, and that's what they were literally labeled. Instead of dolls, they were labeled as action figures for the boys. And then all the movies were action movies that they were advertised, and it was like Star Wars, Ninja Turtles, Jurassic Park, just lots of action, adventure, maybe even scary stuff for the boys. And then the most, I think, gender, like that I noticed was like most separated by gender was the building sets, or like the Legos is what they were. and they were like named on the actual sign by the type of toy, so saying building sets, and then right under it saying girls building sets, what I thought was like really unnecessary because they were both building sets, and you could have just left that there, and then if you wanted to have them separated by like the label and the colors and everything, that would have been fine, but they actually labeled it as girls building sets, which I thought was completely like unnecessary. But then, and what came more separation was that the ones that were obviously marketed towards boys were named things like Lego Creator, Lego City, Lego Superheroes, and then the ones that named for the girls were like Lego Princess, Lego Friends. And so they were like obviously perpetuating these stereotypes of like, you can be a friend, but you could be a creator, you could be your own career kind of thing. And the boys sets, they built things like more vehicles, even more, machines, like battleships, battle fighter planes and stuff, demolition sites, and even a deli, okay, for boys. And then for the girls sets, yeah, the girls set, instead of a deli, they made Cupcake Cafe for the girls, and a hotel, and a pop star house, and a pop star tour bus, and a pop star stage, and this is what the girls were creating. And so I think those sent pretty clear messages of like what's expected for the girls and what's expected for the boys, but I'll get more into the messages later. And so for the dolls, or the toys that look like fake people, there were the dolls for the girls labeled, and then there was the action figures for the boys. And both, I think, were predominantly white, but there was some good, like a good mix of race, but they were predominantly white. And there was less, I think, mix for the boys, the boy toys, the male dolls, is what I'm trying to say. And then for like what I noticed about the like figures and the presentation of the females, but they were all like thin, the female dolls were all thin, all smiling, happy looking, all had like long pretty hair, just looked like really like attractive, put together. Yeah, there were no like disabilities, anything like that. They were all just normal looking. And some had actually like the career Barbie dolls and everything, and some of those had the careers that weren't stereotypical of their gender, kind of. So there were like female dolls with like a pilot or a firefighter, but then within those, like the background and everything, you could see their props, and they were all pink, like a pink airplane and a pink fire truck, which was really unrealistic, but interesting. And also noticed something that was like really stuck out to me was that there was one of the career dolls that was specifically labeled a nurse for the female one. There were no career dolls for the males, but the one for the females was labeled nurse, but it was just in a lab coat and a stethoscope, so I thought it would have been better if they had maybe just left it, like, not said anything, or it could have been a doctor, so that way it would leave it left up to the like kids' imagination. But they just decided to make it a nurse. And so yeah, for the male dolls, there were no like careers for those. But they were all like lean or muscular, and there was actually very few male dolls, but there were some. And for the action figures, for the boy section, they were all like popular characters, and there were none that were just like people. Like girls would have like, this is just a Barbie, this is a person. But they were all like popular characters you would see on like TV or something for the boys' action figures. So they were like wrestlers or superheroes. And so I think overall the message that these toys were sending by being like separated by gender and everything, were that the boys were allowed to be more like violent with the battleships and all those kind of things. And active with like the vehicles that they could run around and everything. And then like, especially with the Legos, like a lot of exploration kind of theme. So like with the land vehicles, the air, like airplane kind of things you could make, even space, like there was a spaceship you could build. And so they were sending that kind of message to kids, like you could have all these careers, you could do all these things, kind of like lots of possibilities. And for the girls, there weren't that many possibilities for careers or anything like that. There were lots of like, is a doll or a baby doll, you could be like maternal, that's a message it's sending you. Or it's just like really unrealistic career aspirations if there were any, so the princess or a pop star and stuff like that. It's just not something that's really, it's achievable, yeah, but it's really unlikely, it's unrealistic.
Very limited.
Yeah. And so like, for my reaction, it was just, I was really excited to look and see like what had changed and like if there's like step forwards, and there was like a few step forwards, like especially with the race, like there were more added in than I ever remember seeing like of different races. But I was really not that surprised. I was actually surprised that there was really not that much difference from when I was a kid. That I thought they could have added in just like maybe mixing the toys to have more like variation or anything. And I noticed that maybe there was like a class difference in the kind of toys that were advertised, and so like a lot of the working class kind of careers and everything were like with the boys section. So it's the kind of thing that they can like actually aspire to be. And like, oh, I could be a construction worker if I want. There's even like a garbage truck toy, so I could do that if I want, kind of thing. And for the girls, there just wasn't that much like a working class or any kind of career besides a princess. You know, it's not really like a career, or maybe a pop star. And so like, yeah, maybe these like high class careers that you can aspire to be, but not really realistically probably be in. And so maybe that's another thing they could try to change, is add more like realistic careers, like they are trying, seems to do with like the pilot's career, the Barbies and the nurses and stuff like that. If they had done it more throughout the rest of the toys, that would be more interesting to me. And then so how it reflected on me was that I did mostly play with dolls when I was a kid, because that's what was available. And I think maybe that shaped the fact that I like to study sociology, because what you're doing when you're playing with dolls, or you're like having little interactions and everything, and seeing how like they work together and everything. And maybe that would affect the fact that I just want to study people, and I don't have any real like, I want to work with my hands or any kind of career, like that kind of thing. So maybe, but also like one thing that was wrong was playing with baby dolls did not make me any more maternal. I would not know what to do with a kid unless I was just supposed to hold it and it was supposed to be still. That's all I would know what to do with a baby doll.
Right.
Yeah, maybe it was a
Maybe.
but that didn't work. Okay, thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Rutman. As we know, toys are something that are highly influential on young children. For my experiment, I went to Target in my hometown in Apex, and I saw how toys were divided into different genders. There were 6 aisles devoted to toys, 2 aisles were boy aisles, 2 aisles were girl aisles, 1 aisle was for baby toys, and lastly 1 was for board games and puzzles. The toy section was large. It appeared to be divided evenly to please the gender binary model, that there's only like 2 distinct opposite genders that exist. It's fascinating to see that not only were the boy toys separated from the girl toys, but also that the baby section was also separated into 2 genders. That's really fascinating to think, because like, they're babies. They don't care if this is like a boy toy or a girl toy. They see bright, happy colors, and they're happy to play with it. So I thought that was definitely something to take note of. The board games and puzzle sections were also divided. You kind of had the pink unicorn puzzles on one end, and the robots and space on a different end. It's not always the case that gender matches with the biological sex, so as for like with baby toys, like it's the parents and relatives matching their biological sex to match with like a gendered toy. But as we know, that doesn't always add up.
Right.
As for the toys that were considered the masculine toys, you had your action figures, your toy cars, Star Wars stuff, and even toy weapons. For the feminine toys in the girl aisle, you had Barbie dolls and tea sets and baby dolls and even play kitchens. The board games and puzzles were divided like I had said. And in also the board game aisle, you kind of had like a gender neutral section, like right in the middle. You had like Monopoly, Uno, just like those like family fun nights that they always advertise for. And it was kind of funny to see, because it was almost like that gender spectrum. Like you had like the super masculine to kind of like agender, and then feminine. So I thought that was definitely something strange to check into. The masculine toys and the games were relating to sports. The feminine games were relating to shopping and dating. There was like literally a game, and it was like, see who your dream guy is, and it was like, are you really this?
Right.
You're 8, like you are 8 years old, like you're not dating anyone.
That's the goal.
Yeah. So then on top of that, like the toys were even like gendered into color. And the colors were, for the feminine toys, were strictly like pink and purple. As for the guy toys, you would not see like a single bit of pink, and it was very rarely that you would see purple. It was very like bold colors of red and blue, green, orange, things like that. And the packaging on the boy toys were like these big bold lettering and like explosions. And as for the girl toys, you had this like very dainty font with flowers, very like stereotypical things.
Very feminine.
The messages on the boy toys were different from the girls as well. There was, let's see, on a robot action figure, there was like, challenge your friends to the ultimate battle, and on an Incredible Hulk toy, it was like, real packing punch, and it was very, it was a more like violent theme to it. Yeah, and for the girl toys, it was like, on a Baby Alive doll, it was like, I love you, mommy, take care of me.
That's creepy.
Yeah, that really.
Those dolls
that's
are creepy already to begin with,
Right.
like, and then the kitchen set, it said, cook for your friends. Like, okay, this plastic food, like, cook for your friends, guys. So, the girl toys seem to be more of like the message of like serving others, whether it be like a motherly thing or a hospitality thing, like cook for your family, like have that stereotypical like woman belongs in the kitchen.
Right.
So that was something very interesting to see that we're teaching young children. Let's see. It was definitely like the stereotypes with the boy toys being like all manly and strong, with the girl toys being very nurturing and almost like subordinate to like the dominant male figures. It definitely taught the kids their roles in their gender, and that they should be following them even through the toys that they play with. The bodies on these toys also were something that was shocking, considering that these are for children. For the boys' action figures, there was like this like wrestling set, and it was these like women that were like large-breasted and extremely thin, just very model-esque, maybe not even a natural body, something like very like plastic surgery like. And for like the men action figures of the wrestling, they were like these like overly muscular men. That's something like for a child, like a little child,
Right.
it's just very unrealistic. And as for the girl toys, obviously the Barbie dolls, the thin Barbie doll look, with Ken as well being shirtless, six-pack, just why? You know, not everyone has that body type. So that was very interesting as well. The predominant race of these dolls, both for the boys and the girls, was white, and there was very few black people, and when there was a black doll that they carried, it was not in as great of quantity. It was as if they knew that, like, it was as if the store knew they weren't going to sell as well, so it was like, why carry as many? And there was absolutely no doll set for the girls that displayed like an interracial family. They were either one or the other, they were never mixed. And that's very like segregated, you know, like in our world today we see more interracial families, we see more like same-sex relationships as well, and it's just, you know, we're not showing that part to children as well.
Right.
And overall, in conclusion, like through all of the information that I gathered in this experiment, I was able to see that our society is forcing specific gender roles for our children to fit into a very stereotypical cookie cutter shape.
Right.
And we want them to fit into that for our, like, for the good of our society, kind of based on the traditional values and everything. Yeah. Thank you so much for listening.
Good.
I'm Lauren Salazar. I went to Target in Kernersville. The store, the aisles weren't labeled specifically boys and girls, but there was a clear segregation between genders, mostly because it was color-coded. The boys' aisles were more blue, green, yellow, red, and the girls' aisles were pinks and purples, some yellow, but not a lot. Let's see, the boys' toys consisted of like dinosaurs, trucks, cars, Legos, building blocks, airplanes, and the girls' section consisted of like Barbies, stuffed animals, dress-up clothes, specifically princesses with accessories like crowns and wands, jewelries, and shoes to go with it. Some of the other toys for boys were swords, Nerf guns, water guns, bows and arrows, cars, action figures, specifically like G.I. Joe. They had some Transformers stuff like masks and like little weapons they had from the movie, and toys from Marvel and Star Wars. For girls, in terms of movies, they had things from like Frozen. They had stuff from TV shows like My Little Pony, Hello Kitty. A show that I learned about recently, Doc McStuffins. She's like a vet, cartoon vet. I noticed that there's like a big, since Star Wars came out, not recently, but within the past couple of months, there was like a big display of Star Wars where they had, I don't know the names, but they had like the little like robot people from the movie, and they were selling a bunch of the action figures of the characters, but none of them were of the main female character.
Right.
It's like they were trying to keep it so Star Wars was like a male-only interest, and it could have been profitable for the company if they decided to actually make stuff for the girl character and had it appeal to the girls, but I guess they just didn't really think that was an option, or just assumed that girls wouldn't be interested in Star Wars despite the fact that she's, I think, the main character.
I think people all take a different kind of vibe too.
Right.
Yeah.
And she's even a princess too, so
I
that's
think,
something interesting.
I don't know, because, I mean, they could have even, since they already had costumes and stuff like that, they could have had costuming, like dolls, they could have had accessories and stuff, but they kind of just completely skipped over that. In terms of like careers they were oriented to the genders. Boys, there's appealed more to careers such as doctors, builders, or architects. But they also had some unrealistic ones like superheroes and wrestlers, which I mean, I know that's profitable and popular, but not many people are going to be wrestlers, and no one's going to be a superhero. They also had pilots and construction workers. The girls, like I said before, I docked myself into as a vet, which I think is a positive move towards having a better role model, a better encouraging careers for girls. But then they also had, like, instead of, like Kelsey said before, instead of having a doctor costume, they had a nurse costume. Instead of having anything else really attainable, they had like being a princess or being a fairy or dressing up like a flower, and it didn't make any sense to me. Also, the roles for women, like you said, were also focused on domestic roles like family, taking care of fake babies. There are also a lot of things centered towards maintaining and earning friendships, like they have like friendship making kits and like the bracelets, and then they have baking kits. They're also like craft kits where they just like had a bunch of glitter, like go make your own art, and they were like rainbows and flowers, and you can make jewelry and make clothing, but they were all like things that the packaging was completely like pink and purple, and it wasn't marketed like here kids make your own stuff. It was like here little girls, you like to make stuff, make a pretty shirt for yourself. Yeah. And I noticed that Target had previously stated that they were going to stop labeling toys by gender, but like I said earlier, there was a clear division because of the color coding. There was an aisle where there were like board games, but it kind of looked like they weren't trying to make that neutral. It's just they didn't have anywhere else to put the board games, so they put them in the middle because then people just kind of make their way in and find them. Let me see. Nothing had really changed, in my opinion, from when I was a kid. when I used to buy toys and go down the aisles, everything is still divided. I mean, maybe I saw some differences between Barbies. They're trying to represent people in terms of race, but there are no different types of bodies.
Right.
And also, like you said, there are a limited amount of the Barbies who are non-white, which I know Mattel recently released a bunch of Barbies who were supposed to represent different body types.
A broader audience.
Yeah, a broader audience, but I haven't actually seen those in stores, so I don't know if that's something you'd have to special order, or if it's anything that's really available to the immediate general public, but I think that would be a good step forward.
True.
Progress.
Yeah, I mean, but nothing really has been done to like restructure or redefine the traditional setup of toy stores. I guess that, you know, as there's more exploration of gender and gender roles, I don't feel like a lot of corporations are necessarily open to that. I guess they're sticking to what's been working in the past, is profitable, so we'll continue with that. But the lack of representation is discouraging.
That's true.
So I don't really know what can be done to fix that. Like I said, the Mattel making different Barbies is a step in the right direction, but you don't really see many efforts being made from other big corporations or toy makers, so that's kind of it.